Hey guys, Paul here. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about why I like playing going second decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! And why you might like them. I'll just sort of explaining like what they are, what draws me to them, some of the ups, some of the downs. So, what is a going second deck, or as you might hear it called, a blind second deck? It's basically a deck that's sort of built with the intention of going second rather than going first. As you guys know, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, going first is kind of the dream, right? Winning the dice roll, going first, it's great. If you're playing a combo deck, it means you get to, go first and make your plays largely uninterrupted. Only hand traps can really stop you, but many people plan to play around those. So, you get to just not have to really deal with anything that your opponent has, and you can just do exactly what you want, set up a huge board, pass your turn, feeling happy. Also, if you're playing a trap-based deck, that could be something like Eldritch, but also things like Trap Tricks, Altergeist, Guru Control, anything kind of in that neighborhood, you also want to be able to go first because you want to be able to set all of your traps as soon as possible. It's a lot harder to play these types of decks when they're forced to go second because, if your opponent already has a huge board set up, then it's harder for you to combo off. Or if your opponent already has a huge board of negate set up, then it's harder for you to set those traps because they're a lot slower there. A going second deck is one of the ones where like you actually plan on losing the dice roll. If you win the dice roll, then you just choose to go second and let your opponent go first. Or if they win the dice roll, they'll just go first and you can still be getting the best parts of your strategy by going second. So going second is really more about breaking your opponent's board. To that end, you'll be using cards that are like, either force negations, nuke the field, get rid of troublesome monsters. So obviously your field nukes come to mind. That's your Raigekis, that's your potentially Harpy's Feather Duster, or your Lightning Storms, evenly matched. Cards that just, wipe clear a lot of monsters at one time. It could also be cards that, can clear monsters off the board without even letting your opponent respond. So, for instance, Kaijus, Winged Dragon of Ra, Sphere Mode, Super Polymerization, that's another one that your opponent can't really react to. In some cases, Dark Ruler No More and Forbidden Droplets come up here as well, although they're not necessarily as useful because many going second decks need to actually deal damage and try to win the game on their very first turn after they've broken the opponent's board. So some examples of some going second decks that I've played a lot of is Cyber Dragons, Gren Maju, that's a very infamous one. I even played the Invoked Mech Knight deck back in around 2018. I really liked playing that. Even Despia, that's a deck that I play, and I like playing going second variants of it with Incredible Ecclesia, Fallen of Albaz, Super Poly. These decks are a lot of fun for me, and a big part of the reason I like them is because in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! There's lots of combo decks. I'm not a big fan of it, and I'm also not very good at comboing. Some people might say that makes me smooth-brained or something, I don't know, but I'm really not very great at doing just long combos, adapting them as I get hand trapped, things like that. So I'd rather let my opponent do all the hard work of doing their long crazy combo, and then for me, I just have to break their board. I don't know if you guys remember playing those really old Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games on the Game Boy Color and PlayStation and stuff like that, where some of them would have these dual modes where it's a dual puzzle or a dual riddle. And so basically you'll be placed in a scenario where you have to play your way out of this really bad looking situation. Your opponent's got this thing that can stop your spells, this thing that can stop your traps, this is reducing your monster's attack. Here's your hand, go for it, figure out how to do it. And I really liked those as a kid, so I guess I've just carried some of that with me. Maybe some of it's even that I'm a little bit of a sadist and I sort of like seeing my opponent put all this effort in and then me just sort of taking it away. So when I played my Gren Maju deck for a really long time, I loved facing Orcas. This was around 2019. Orcas was kind of one of the best, if not the best decks of that format. And it was great because they would summon Dengirsu and they would summon all these Link monsters and do all this cool stuff. And they'd set Orcas Crescendo, a little counter trap. And then I would just be boop, Super Poly, I take everything. You can't chain anything. It's all gone. Now your trap's dead because you don't have any of the Link monsters. It's great. I like sort of wiping away my opponent's hopes and dreams and resources. And for me, it's just kind of a lower octane way to play. I don't like the fear of messing up a long combo in table at table 2 in round 9 of a regional where the pressure's on, the stakes are high. I feel like I might mess that up. So it's easier to play a deck where breaking the board is my objective instead. And I've gotten a number of regional tops and invites and things with Cyber Dragons, with Gren Maju. I really do feel at home when I'm playing these decks. Now, that said, these decks aren't perfect. They actually have a number of weaknesses. First and foremost, these decks are oftentimes kind of a little bit more based on luck. So, yes, if you go second, you get the benefit of drawing an extra card, and that's always really nice for card economy, but many times all the cards that I listed that can like be useful for breaking boards aren't cards that you can search out. That even goes for hand traps. Many going second decks will like use, like hand traps as well, but it's something where like you just have to hope that you drew your super polys. There's not really like an easy way to search them. You have to hope that you drew your lightning storms or whatever cards it might be. So that's something kind of to keep in mind. Also, these decks typically are quite linear. So when their strategies don't work out, they don't oftentimes have a lot of steam after the fact. That definitely goes for decks like Cyber Dragons or Grenmaju in particular, where they don't have the disposable resources, like I said, to use a card like Forbidden Droplets. They don't really get like recovery if their things do get stopped. And in many cases, if your opponent sort of knows what it is that you are playing, then games 2 and 3 can get really tricky to like side deck for and adapt to, because your opponent might actually make you go first in game 2 or game 3, and in that case, if you're opening with cards like Lightning Storm and like Kaijus and you have to go first, that might not be very good. You might not have anything that you can do, and then suddenly you find yourself just getting killed by your opponent when they take their turn. So these are all certainly things to keep in mind. Just the ability to brick is like very much still a real like problem that these decks face. The lack of follow-up plays in many cases. One cool thing is that many of these decks will have their own like gimmick that they can play alongside those unsearchable staple cards. So like for instance, Cyber Dragons, you guys know, can make like Chimeratech Mega Fleet Dragon using cards that are in the extra monster zone. So that's really fun because it doesn't like start a chain or anything. You can actually just use like your Cyber Dragon and even like set a Cyber Dragon monster like Cyber Dragon Core, Cyber Dragon Veer, and Contact Fusion. There's nothing your opponent can really do to chain it. It doesn't like trigger things. So that's like really cool, and it's something unique that only Cyber Dragons can do. And of course, they're going to try to like OTK with their Chimeratech stuff. It's really fun. Also, like with Grenmaju, I would usually play it with like Golden Castle of Stromberg. That's always a really fun one. And you get access to like little cool cards like Dangers or Gizmek Rochi. So there's very unique things. If you played like the Mech Knight deck, that's probably not really as like relevant today, but the Mech Knights have the column moving stuff, and they benefit from your opponent playing lots of cards because, well, like they just want to get played in zones and have stuff in them. So it's really fun. You definitely still get to have the fun of like, playing a strategy. It's just that I like these decks so much because you get to kind of counter that part of the modern Yu-Gi-Oh metagame that is oftentimes so frustrating for people, which is the long combos with the big like just super strong boards, and that's really nice. It's kind of like turning your opponent's strategy against them. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about these decks. I really enjoy playing them. When I look for new decks, I oftentimes am looking for something that I can play going second, and while they aren't necessarily perfect, they do offer a lot of nice benefits, and something that maybe you should consider playing yourself if you like. You want to be able to like sort of play modern Yu-Gi-Oh, but you're not drawn to combo decks, or maybe you're not even drawn to like the trap-based decks either. Then this can really be a nice middle ground. All right, yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say. All right, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know down in the comments below. Do you like playing go first, go second decks? What are some of the ups and downs to it, the sort of trials or tribulations that maybe you've encountered? Because like I said, they are not perfect. And yeah, it's going to be it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Best turn.